This episode will be completely taken out of context. Welcome to the Fact Check This podcast.
All right, Fact Check This podcast. And today, we're going to talk about how the left always seems to miss the point. Today, we have an article from Slate about the phrase "Molon Labe," which is "come and take them," or as is said in the article, literally translates to "come, take," as the title of today's show says. And this is an attempt to explain why that's not really what happened, and the 2A community shouldn't use this saying. Doesn't mean what you think it means. I think you're wrong, but we'll get into that. So, as I said, we'll jump right in. Come, take. The story about the Spartans that America's gun fringe loves the most probably didn't even happen that way. Okay. I'm pretty sure we all understand and acknowledge that a lot of things from history, especially from history that far back, very probably didn't happen that way. Like, why does the left hate like storytelling and creativity and like artistic things? It doesn't make sense to me. Also, as a preface for those who are just listening to this, the author of this is Mike Cole. It's spelled M-Y-K-E, Mike with a Y. So right off the bat, you already know this is going to be super gay. And it does not disappoint. Molon Labe, ancient Greek for come and take them, or literally come take, is a phrase frequently invoked by the right-wing fringe of the 2A community of gun owners. I don't know what the right-wing fringe of the 2A community of gun owners is. I don't think there's a right-wing fringe in the 2A community, but whatever. There might be a left-wing fringe of those oddballs that actually like guns, but also for some reason socialism. But I don't think there's a right-wing fringe. That's emblazoned on bumper stickers, hats, and pretty much anywhere else it fits. It's a shout of defiance and an implied threat of violence against an imagined federal government hell-bent on coming to take their guns. It's literally the reason the Second Amendment exists. The phrase is almost certain, and not only that, it's also taking away guns, a staple of everything that the left loves and clings to. Socialism, communism, all of that bullshit. It's a staple of every society that has practiced those things, every government that has practiced the things that the left loves so much. That's a staple, is taking away your guns. So it's not some imagined threat. It's like the left is literally every year trying to do everything they can to take away guns. This isn't like new or news. And it's not an implied threat of violence. It's a promise of it, which we get to more of that, the idea of the promise of, as we get into the bullshit of how this author looks at the story of Sparta. The phrase is almost certainly apocryphal, but it's supposedly the reply of the Spartan king Leonidas to the Persian king Xerxes' demand that the Spartans surrender their arms, just prior to the Battle of Thermopylae in 480 BC. That is to say, the words spoken just before Leonidas and all his troops were slaughtered, and Xerxes, who cut off the Spartan king's head, stuck it on a pole, and yes, took whatever unbroken weapons he and his men had left. As evidence for this story, we have the quote from the Greek philosopher Plutarch, writing more than 500 years after the event. But Plutarch was a moral essayist, not a historian. His objective was to improve his audience's character, not faithfully report facts. And while movies like Zack Snyder's 2006 hit 300 depict Molon-Labe as a defiant verbal riposte delivered on a battlefield, in Plutarch's telling, Leonidas's challenge came in a far less exciting exchange of written letters. Yeah, again, no shit. That's the way that they communicated in those times. It's not like Xerxes and Leonidas were standing on the battlefield facing off against each other and yelling at each other. Like, is this really a stretch of the imagination? It makes for a more beautiful story and a more epic action sequence for it to be played out that way. But like, does anybody who's read the history of this like think that that's not played up for a movie? The lack of imagination for the left just boggles my mind. Like so many myths about the Spartans, the tale of Molon-Labe has by now become a toxic twisting of a very human Spartan story into a kind of action movie badassery that, while entertaining, is of little actual use to anyone except as a galvanizing symbol for the political right. In my new book, The Bronze Lie, Shattering the Myths of Spartan Warrior Supremacy, of course, this idiot is trying to sell a book, I talk about a few more like this. There's the canard that the Spartans culled weak or deformed children, so only the strong would live to serve the state. Sparta's famous king Agesilaus II, who was most certainly not culled, was born with a club foot. There's the nonsensical idea that Spartans hated wealth, one of the most common reasons for the downfall of the eminent Spartans, from the legendary general Gyphilus to King Lechidas, was bribery. There's the old salt, as untrue as it is ubiquitous, that Spartans never surrendered. In fact, 120 of their most elite warriors gave up once surrounded at the Battle of Phocaea in 425 BC. Even compared with these examples, the adoption of Molon-Labe is odd. Leonidas' disastrous defeat at Thermopylae in 480 was a speed bump under the wheels of the Persian war machine. After taking the Spartans' weapons, Xerxes went on to burn Athens. The battle was an utter disaster for Greece, spun into a propaganda victory, but most likely in an effort to keep a completely demoralized Greek coalition from surrendering to a triumphant Persia. Leonidas' defiance is, in truth, a loser's cry. No one reading Herodotus' brutal depiction of the utter annihilation of the Spartans at Xerxes' hands can think Molon-Labe is a winning slogan for those who warn the government off trying to disarm the populace. And yet, 2A's most extreme luminaries, from Ted Cruz to Marjorie Taylor Greene, never seem to tire of it. So, correct me if I'm... This guy probably sides with the hunchback selling out his own people to the Persians. Most likely, as we've talked about previously, like these people side with the bugs. So, like, yes, most likely. And as I recall, if I'm not wrong, I believe that the defeat of Leonidas and then the burning of Athens led to a Greek resurgence, a Greek revival, a rebellion that had Sparta and Greece come together to fight and push Persia and push Xerxes back. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. And that's the crux of it. That's the idea. Yeah, it united the city-states against Persia. And that's the idea. That's this short-sighted, narrow-sightedness of the left. It's like when they say, what are you going to do against the government when they have F-16s? It's like, okay, if a group, let's say a fringe right movement of the 2A community, said, come and take them, and the government actually sent F-16s and the army to go murder all of these people to take their weapons, do you not think that would be a rallying cry? That would be like the straw that breaks the camel's back, that people realize, oh shit, like everything that we feared is legit, and now it's time to actually go do something about it. Like, how long do you think the colonies lived under the king's oppression and rulership and constantly impeding on their freedoms and their liberties over and over and over and over again until they finally said, enough, it's time to go to war, and started the American Revolution? That was their version of come, take. What would be the trigger to set off something like that again? Probably something similar to, Leonidas standing up and saying, come and take, and then getting trampled. And then everybody realizes, oh shit, this is a legitimate threat. Now we need to go do something. And yeah, they don't know honor or courage. Like the idea of actually standing up for something when it might cost you anything more than, being talked down to on the internet or something. Like anything that has real consequences, anything that has real cost, the left can't fathom like actually committing to something like that. And then it gets better. Like we move on here. What's even more curious, speaking as an ancient military historian, is that there are good potential slogans for the 2A folks, actual moments from ancient warfare where the real past genuinely matches their modern sentiment. Here are two of them. Carthage must be destroyed. When Rome's bitter enemy Carthage was finally defeated at the Battle of Zama in 202 BC, they thought their fight was done. But Rome never ceased to consider the North African city-state a threat. Cato the Elder, who would also fight at Thermopylae nearly 300 years after Leonidas died there, concluded every Senate speech with the famous tag, Carthago delenda est. Carthage must be destroyed. Cato got his wish with the initiation of the Third Punic War in 149 BC. The terrified Carthaginians, knowing that there was little hope of resistance, complied with a Roman request to surrender their weapons in hopes it would assuage Roman concerns. It did not. Rome went on to fulfill Cato's imperative, utterly annihilating the city and enslaving its population. It is a real-life example of what the 2A's right-wing fringe fears the U.S. government will do. Carthago delenda est is a slogan that would remind 2A advocates of what befell the people who willingly surrendered their weapons, and summarizes the paranoid view of government overreach perfectly. Paranoid view is a weird way to put that when every example throughout history of, like I said before, of what the left wants our government to look like has always resulted in exactly that. Taking their guns and fucking them anyway. Why would that be a paranoid view when it's played itself out time and time again throughout all of history? Also, it's a good story, and it's a very fitting example of what we fear and rightfully should fear. But the problem is, Carthago delenda est does not roll off the tongue like Molon Labe. Again, this is, when we say the left can't meme, it's because they don't understand how to create a good tagline, a good slogan, something that gets people amped up. Like, it worked for Obama because he had the hope thing, but that was it. Like, it was one word. Anytime they have to actually compile a sentence or a slogan, they always fuck it up. Where with her or whatever for Hillary, that was so dumb. Like, the left lacks creativity, and they lack the ability to connect with people and understand how to generate slogans, how to, like, they've been trying to capture their own MAGA for since Donald Trump came on the scene. They suck at it. They don't know how to connect with people because they're bug people. They're not really human. Give us arms, we will fight them ourselves. In 378 AD, the Roman Empire was in the midst of the Gothic Wars, which would eventually help bring about its collapse. The Emperor Valens, who had a reputation as a poor general, had failed to prevent the Goths from reaching the very suburbs of Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul, which was the capital of the empire's eastern half and the counterpart to Rome itself. Fed up with Valens' dithering, a crowd of the populace gathered at Constantinople's hippodrome, reportedly chanting, "Give us arms, we will fight them ourselves." This was a poignant display of distrust and disgust in the government, and a kind of ancient equivalent of the modern 2A's right-wing axiom that only a good guy with a gun can stop a bad guy with a gun. As a slogan, it could speak to the bone-deep anxiety in the 2A community that, as some members like to remind me, from the moment you get attacked by a bad guy, it takes the police at least 10 minutes to show up. Until then, you're on your own. Better to be ready. But why, when there are better options, does 2A insist on Molon Labe? So obviously wrong for its intended modern purposes. Because, again, give us arms, we will fight them ourselves. What's the Greek, or what's the Roman word for that? Like, is it a short, easy slogan? Like MAGA, Make America Great Again. Short, easy, rolls off the tongue, hits hard. Molon Labe, short, easy, rolls off the tongue, hits hard. They don't know how to connect with people. They don't know how to talk to people. They don't understand how to actually brand themselves. And this gets into the problem that the left is running into right now, because they have run so wild with so many different crazy progressive ideas that they don't have a true identity. Their identity is whatever's the most radically extreme, but even half the time they can't agree on what that is. This is perfect. That should have been the catchphrase. That should have been the slogan, the campaign slogan for Kamala Harris and her 2024 campaign. I'm too drunk to taste this chicken. Colonel Sanders. I just watched Talladega Nights the other day. I love that show. But like they always fail to connect. All right, back to the article. But why then, when there are better options, does 2A insist on Molon Labe? So obviously wrong for its intended modern purpose. And again, it's not wrong. It's not wrong. It's you missed the point. 2A's right-wing fringe favors Molon Labe and by extension the larger toxic myth of Spartan badassery, primarily because it dovetails with other ideas they favor, namely the advancement of anti-immigration and anti-Muslim causes. Of course, everything goes back to racism. In his distorted depiction of Greece's existential struggle against Persia, Herodotus' story of Thermopylae laid the foundations for a wildly false East versus West narrative that persists to this day. In reality, Greece and Persia were so inextricably linked that one could scarcely exist without the other. The film 300 and the 1998 Frank Miller comic on which it was based took Herodotus entirely at face value and solidified this skewed perspective in the pop culture mainstream. In the battle version, a hunky 36-year-old Gerard Butler, the real-life Leonidas was 60 at the time of this battle, led a tiny, beleaguered force composed entirely of muscle-bound white men to defend the gates of Europe against a brown-skinned tide of decadent foreigners. This wildly false take on Thermopylae, and by extension Sparta, has become a constant reference point for right-wing fringe groups in slogan after poster after stump speech, from Greece's Golden Dawn to Italy's Allianza Nazionale to France's Génération Identitaire to America's Oath Keepers. And of course, it's why Molon Labe has emerged as the go-to slogan for a certain group of 2A activists. If you're ever curious why the right does anything, it's because of racism. Mullen Labe has been adopted by the fringe right of the 2A community because of racism. It only took us what? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It only took us 10 paragraphs to get there. That actually might be a record. They made it 2/3 of the way or more through this article before blaming it on racism. Everything is racism to these people. It's fucking insane. Uh, 2A's right-wing fringe are the gun-owning community's squeaky wheel. And while they monopolize headlines, they are far from representative of a community as diverse as this country. I'm a liberal veteran of both the military and law enforcement who is constantly having to defend my gun ownership from people who agree with me on most other matters of politics. Law enforcement. See, I knew this dude was gay right off the bat. Aesthetics and cool factor. No, it's just racism. Leftists just hate beauty. And I mean, they hate beauty. They hate storytelling. They hate anything that is creative or unique. They completely lack any level of being interesting or being creative. It's fucking insane. I mean, when you see what passes for left-wing art, that tells you everything you need to know. And of course, I'm attacked by my 2A tribe. They deride lefty gun owners like me, liberal veterans, cops, sports people, and hunters who enjoy shooting, often possess only one or a few guns and have no need to own an AR-15 as FUDs. That's a reference to the cartoon character Elmer Fudd, who's portrayed as a bumbling hunter who is constantly shooting himself in the foot. A starker counterpoint to the cartoonish Spartan of Miller's fantasies you could hardly find. "2A is a much bigger tent than most know, and it kills me that our most fringe population gets almost all of the press. If 2A's ugliest elements insist on keeping all gun owners tarred with the same brush, they can at least pick a better slogan. Their positions are arguably a crime against humanity, and they don't have to be a crime against history, too." And again, the left can't mean, and this guy doesn't understand why we call them FUDs. It's so incredible how hyper-focused their brain is on you're a FUD because you're for guns, but probably also for common sense gun control. You retarded faggot. Yes. We call them FUDs because they're fucking dumb. They don't understand the hypocrisy of their own position. They rub the two brain cells together, generate a little bit of a spark, and understand that everything that you want politically, every time it's been practiced throughout all of human fucking history, the first thing they do is take the guns. So you cannot be pro 2A and also support all of that shit. I'm sorry. It doesn't work that way. History has proven it. You want to talk about a crime against history? Your position is a crime against history. It completely ignores all of human history and how this works. The lack of creativity, the lack of deep understanding of how things work, the lack of understanding where the position comes from and why it's important. Like, oh, why would you say come and take them when Leonidas and his Spartans just ended up getting completely murdered? It's like, because what happened after. And it's unfortunate, but there are those of us amongst a lot of the fringe conservative community or the fringe right-wing community who have accepted that at some point there are people who are probably going to have to play martyr. I don't want to be it, but nobody else wants to be that either. We hope that maybe the right things will happen, and it never has to happen. But also, we are ready to stand firmly by and say, come take. And if it's my time, it's my time. And I hope when the next generation sees that, when the rest who didn't realize how bad it was, to go back to the Carthage must be destroyed, Carthago delenda est, when they realize that it will never stop until you are completely disarmed and dead. Maybe once they realize that's for real, start paying attention to history, that'll be the match that likes the powder keg. That's the idea behind it. Not whatever this retard thinks it is. Racism. It's always racism. That'll do it for today. I will be back next week. Oh, might do a live stream on Tuesday. I got to talk to a couple people and see about that, possibly. So I'll be back next week, either with a live stream on Tuesday night or with a regular show like this on Thursday morning. We'll see how that works out. Anyway, have a great rest of your day. Have a great 4th of July. Great 4th of July weekend. Lost that. And I will see you next time. Later.